Hey, I'm Charlie McGee.
And I'm Brenna Quinlan.
And this is Big Red Bev, the Biosphere Emergency Vehicle, because our biosphere, our living world, is in a little bit of trouble, and we want to use our creativity and music and art to try and do something about it.
So Big Red Bev is our part-time residence. We spend the other 6 months of the year living at my tiny house on a permaculture property here in central Victoria. But when we're teaching or playing gigs or generally on the road, this is what we call home. So we've got our music set up, our art set up and our teaching set up, all in one package that we take around with us like our snail shell.
Bev was constructed about 2 years ago before we met, and I initially bought her as an old fire truck that had been discontinued, and ripped the back off, put a box on the back, and then built a house mostly out of recycled materials, and then converted the truck to run on waste vegetable oil. So all of our fuel comes from the back of fish and chip shops or restaurants or fast food joints, and it's pretty much free most of the time. So we're going to get in out of the wind and show you around. So Bev runs on waste veggie oil, which is different to biofuels in that it's already a waste product. I don't actually think biodiesel or ethanol or biofuels are really a sustainable way to go, but this was the best way that we could make use of a waste product to get around. And it's a very greasy, messy lifestyle, but for us, it works. And all we do is call up ahead or just pull into a fast food joint or a roadhouse or anywhere with a deep fryer and ask them for their lovely cholesterol-free vegetable oil. Sometimes explaining less works better, because if I start telling people that my truck runs on veggie oil, they're like, what? And so I'm just like, hi, have you got any oil? We're coming by. And they're like, sure. So keep it simple. And then once I have enough oil, Bev takes about 200 litres a tank. So I've got to get a lot. So we pull in to the drum where the drums are full of veg oil, or, in this case, the little square bulkies. And I pull out my technically termed Gettin' hose here, just looking a little worse for wear, and just stick it in the vat of oil. Then I've got a pump down here, which is just a 24-volt pump that pumps the oil from the dirty oil from the vat into my dirty tank. So from the 44-gallon drum or the dirty drum of oil, it goes into our dirty oil tank, which is about 200 litres, and that's just dirty, gungy stuff that isn't ready to go into the engine. So from there, it needs to be filtered and heated. And what we've got for that is this UFO-looking thing here, which is a centrifuge. And that spins the oil at about 6,000 revs per minute and then pulls out all of the fine dust and little sediments and bits of fish and chip that are in there to actually trickle it down into the clean tank at the back of the truck. And after that, there's another system in the front that heats the oil and filters it again and then sends it to the diesel engine. And we have to wait about 5 minutes for the truck to warm up because the heater is actually coming from the radiator system. So the coolant heats the oil, and then when it's warm enough, we just flick a switch and off we go. So waste veg oil is destined to be greasy and messy and horrible. That's why they call them grease cars, because there is, in my experience, no way of keeping them clean. So it's very much a lifestyle choice if you're going to go down that road. But I just question travel in general, because ultimately, being in a band that sings about permaculture and Bren does art about permaculture, we want to kind of get back to a land-based life. And this is just our vehicle for sort of trying to get the word out about that. So the veg oil was a bit of a compromise, not using fossil fuels and trying to do the most low-impact travel that we could. We can start up on diesel and only use it for about 5 minutes before getting 500 k's down the road powered by waste. And the exhaust smells like fish and chips, so.
All right, so that was the veggie system. Let's take a look inside. Follow me. So this is where we sleep. The bed doubles as instrument and computer storage. This truck's quite high off the ground, and the higher things are, the more they tend to fling about when we're driving off-road. And we found that things were starting to get broken. So we keep all of Charlie's ukuleles here on the bed while we're driving, and our laptops and anything else that's really special. And it's also a really fun cubby place for kids when they come to visit. Up here we've got clothes storage, which isn't full at the moment because we're currently living in my tiny house. We also have a spare set of solar panels in this little alcove for when maybe it's hot and we want to park under a tree in the shade, but we still need power. We can actually take these panels out and link them up to Bev's solar system. Up here we've also got a little desk that Charlie built in anticipation of my first trip in Bev. So I can sit here. This is a portable bike. We take that out so that legs can go down this space, and sit here with a little light and do the work looking out the window. Underneath the bed is actually storage for the new batteries for the solar system, but also all of Charlie's things that he needs as a musician. So there's a drum kit under there, there's a full PA system, all of the mixers, about 5 or 6 other ukuleles, normally my guitar, and one day that will be a lock-up so that it's secure. So this is the kitchen part of the truck. We have a fully functioning gas stove here. The gas bottle is actually accessible from outside the truck above the rear wheel. This is our fridge here. It's a National Luna. So they're very well made, heavy duty fridge. They're built for going off-road. They're very well insulated and very efficient. It's got a freezer section in there as well and quite a deep fridge, so we can fit a lot of stuff in there. We have running water here, which is linked to a tank outside and activated with a foot pump. And we fill this up with rainwater from our friends' tanks. So part of the philosophy behind Bev is that it's a biosphere emergency vehicle. So if there's ever an emergency, like people needing to flee from a fire or people needing help in some way, we wanted to have space for people to stay. So we have a few swags and tents here as extra accommodation. There's also a bar seat in the front of the truck up in the cab where people can stay the night and have before. And we also have this day bed which functions as a bed when necessary. But this also serves as a workspace, kind of an office, and for me, an artist studio. When we're on the road for 3 or 4 months at a time, I'll have illustration jobs that I still need to get done. So it's important to have a quiet space with a desk to work. So Charlie whipped this one up. It's quite heavy, which means that when it's stored underneath the couch, it doesn't fall about. And we can have it like this. We also eat dinner here sometimes, or if we have people over for a cup of tea. And the really brilliant thing about it is it's movable. So if you want to share a cuppa, this might be a better arrangement. Or if I want it like this and have my computer and my paints out a bit further, it works really well too. So storage space is at a premium in tiny houses, I know from my own tiny house. And it's a really exciting, creative challenge to figure out where to store things and how to do it in a way that's really functional for your place. So under the couch, we've thought up a really simple system. We actually borrowed this idea from our friends, the Nomadics. They're a band with 3 kids that live in the same type of house truck. So their idea was to use milk crates. We've just covered them in a bit of recycled hessian and made up some handy lids. And inside we have our homebrew beer collection. And 4 of these fit underneath the couch. And then when we want, we can take them out and use them on the deck as seats. They also double as cutting boards when we're sitting outside, having a picnic, having a fire with friends. So one of the most special things about this being an evolving design that's always changing and improving is that Charlie and his friends have been able to add in some really special features like this mosaic. There's also a really beautiful example of man decorating here. I believe this abalone shell stuck on with blue tack next to this rock. And some beautiful, if there's a hole, put a feather in it. If there's a hook, put a cup on it. Like that's how we roll here in Bev. Gives it her unique character.
So the reason it looks very haphazard in here, aesthetically speaking, is that most of the materials are secondhand, either from the tip shop or from the side of the road. I felt it was important to use recycled materials because the whole purpose of living this way and traveling with our music and our art is to try and send a message of sustainability and regenerative living. So we want to walk the walk as much as we can, and building with recycled materials and living low waste is a big part of that. When we're on the road, we usually plan to stay with friends or on properties that have toilet and shower facilities. Otherwise, we've got a little tank out the back that we can have a little rinse, or we stay near a swimming hole and just wash wild. But the plan is for the next trip to actually build a little 20-litre composting toilet that'll be stored outside, and that will help us to just be responsible with our waste and to actually turn it into something useful. So Bev's fully solar powered. These are my second bank of batteries, but I dumpster dived my first set from a wheelchair service centre. And then these ones were secondhand UPS batteries from an IT place. They've lasted me about a year, and I've actually just upgraded to lithium. So, slightly expensive investment. The whole system is 24 volt, because that's what the truck is. So it converts the 24 to 12 volt, and that runs all of our lights and fridge inside in the house. And then it goes into here into a sine wave inverter, which converts the power into 240 volt, which we can then use for running the PA when I do shows and when we want to charge computers and things like that. And also the inverter is important for running the centrifuge, which actually I'm pretty sure runs on 3-phase power, which has this little module here that converts 240 volt into something even higher, and that runs this pretty energy intensive motor that spins at 6,000 revs per minute. So there's a lot of conversion going on, but yeah, it's fully off grid, so we can be out bush and be powered by the sun.
One of the things with house truck living is that we love having people over, but we didn't have very much space. Bring in the deck. So we've had so many meals and cups of tea on this deck with different people.
I was pretty stoked that it managed to hold 15 children once at a tea party, deck warming actually in Adelaide. So, this is the entertaining area. The deck is where it all happens. And it's also doubles as a stage for when I do school shows or small house concerts. I can actually set up the full PA out here, grab a uke and do a gig. So yeah, it's great. Living outdoors is such a huge part of house truck life for us, because when it's all closed up and cold, it's really a little bit claustrophobic, and you really just want to be spreading out in the sunshine, more like you're camping than living in a tiny space.
So when we're on the road, we can pull up to any beach, any view, even in the inner city, we can park almost anywhere, drop the deck, cook a hot meal on our gas stove, and we're the people that other people walk past our house truck and go, oh, that smells great. I wonder what they're having for breakfast while we're here drinking our cups of tea. And it's like luxury in travel, like I've never known.